What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So yesterday we did have the official translations released from Nintendo when it came to the Q&A that they had with their investors, and in there they did talk about next generation for their Switch platform, as well as rising game costs around development. We're going to go over all of that here today. Also, we're going to be talking about a couple of new controllers that were announced from Sony for the PlayStation 5, with one of them being an interesting choice for the color. And we're also going to be talking about Dragon Quest, as we have a new stream to look forward to that I think is going to bring some pretty big announcements. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with SEGA, because they were also talking with their investors. They had a ton of stuff to present, and we can actually take a look at this slide here that was making the rounds, and you can probably see why it was making the rounds, because immediately you start to see a bunch of older franchises and series that they have that really haven't been doing much. This is the utilization of IP assets, saying holds a large number of globally recognized IP, and on the left we have active IP, which is, you know, your basic stuff, Sonic, Persona, Phantasy Star, things that we expect to see now. But if we look at examples of past IP groups, these are including dormant IPs, Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio, Panzer Dragoon, Knights, Shinobi, and House of the Dead, and they appear to have a couple of ideas for these different series, which includes remasters, remakes, or full-on reboots. And it seemed to get people excited because they started listing these older franchises, and some of them, yeah, I mean, they have been worked on with things like remasters for Forever Entertainment, as an example, with House of the Dead or Panzer Dragoon. So there is a lot of hope right now that we could finally get that Knights AAA game. I know Sean, I'm sure, was already talking about that one online, but looking at this, I would love to see Jet Set Radio get another shot now. That would be really cool. Or even Shinobi, that'd be an interesting one to see. Really, I think I would just like to see SEGA kind of go back to the drawing board, look at a wealth of IPs that they have right now that aren't doing much, and try to put them into play, because that's probably another big thing that they can make quite a bit of money from, just looking at the different series that they have, and maybe even having Forever come in and do remasters or full-on remakes of it. Also, we have been talking about just the overall explosion with popularity around Monster Hunter after Monster Hunter World released, and we saw Monster Hunter Rise just hit the ground running when it came to sales, just even on one platform with the Switch, with 5 million copies, and still moving along there. But let's actually take a look at this here. This is from David Gibson, where he says, "Ever wondered why Capcom is doing so much better than others in Japan? It's this lineup from presentation. New releases turn into long tails of sales," essentially meaning that month over month, even well after release, they continue to sell. And the biggest one here is their most successful game, and that is Monster Hunter World. Remember, when this game came out, it really, I would say, took the Monster Hunter franchise, which was already popular, but like thrust it into the mainstream, now eclipsing 17 million copies sold. And it started to get me thinking, what happens when it's time for Monster Hunter World 2, or whatever they want to call it, when they even move from the MT framework up to the RE engine? It's a big event. Could we be talking about a game that Capcom releases and maybe sells 6, 7, even 8 million copies initially, especially if it is cross-gen, like they may want to be targeting with the PS4, the Xbox One, Series X, PS5. Who knows? Maybe they try to get it on the Switch. I don't know. And then also on PC. It'd be really interesting to see that. But yeah, Monster Hunter is amazingly popular right now for Capcom, and that's going to be a big release to look forward to. Oh, and we also had some good news for Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Shouldn't be anything too surprising, but we can see this tweet from Insomniac Games saying, "We're pleased to announce that Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart has gone gold ahead of its release on June 11th, exclusively on PlayStation 5. So we're a month out. I'm not surprised at all to hear that the game is basically ready to go. It's gone gold now. I mean, we have seen Sony kind of delay some games pretty close to launch, but this one seemed pretty straightforward. Insomniac has been showing it off a lot. I mean, so much so, some of us even thought it might have been ready like earlier this year, even at the launch of the PS5, since they showed so much gameplay when they were initially showing off the PS5. But looking forward to this one, about a month out, and that's gonna be a really fun weekend. Ratchet and Clank, and then going right into E3. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the PlayStation 5 DualSense controller. When Sony first showed it, it was kind of controversial, right? I mean, people looked at it and said it has this two-tone design that's interesting. It's like white and black. Obviously, it goes along with what the system looks like, but a lot of people, myself included, were kind of looking for like an all matte black PlayStation 5 DualSense controller. Well, it looks like they heard us because that's one of the 2 controllers that we're getting. We can head over here to PlayStation blog where they say, today we're thrilled to introduce 2 new colors that will be joining the DualSense controller lineup starting next month, Midnight Black and Cosmic Red. Midnight Black features 2 subtly different shades of black with light gray detailing to reflect how we view space through the night sky, and Cosmic Red offers a striking black and red design inspired by the unique vivid shades of red found throughout the cosmos. So it kind of has that space theme, I guess, is what they're going with here, which is something that Sony, of course, does with like their PlayStation experience. They showed that off with like the night sky and all this, but I do like the look of the matte black finish overall, where it's like darker black around the edges and the touchpad and then kind of a lighter shade of gray. But if you look and really zoom in on the buttons even, those are also accented differently to go along with the color scheme. Now, interestingly enough about this, the red controller appears to be $5 more. And I don't know if it's just the materials that goes into it that just commands a higher price. People like the red controller. And I mean, I looked at it and I said, all right, yeah, that looks pretty good too. But like the all matte black controller is what I wanted. I didn't go that route with colorware when I did the all purple because I figured, hey, we'll probably get all matte black next. I thought that would be the next one up. So that's why I went with the all purple colorware, which, yeah, that would have been a shame if I went all matte black on that one for like twice the price of this one now being announced months later. In fact, it's actually coming out next month on June 18th. I already put a pre-order in for it, and pre-order pages are live on Amazon and Best Buy. I'll link to the Amazon ones down below, but looking forward to these controllers when they hit next month. And let me know if you're picking up one of these or if you're hoping for a different color scheme. I saw some people asking about like a blue. Think that'd be cool, or even a green, interestingly. And also, the idea of the buttons maybe having different accents along with the PlayStation logo in the middle, maybe aiming more towards like the typical color scheme that they would have to go along with the PlayStation branding. And hey, that's something that they probably will save for an anniversary, because why not? They can basically sell a matte black controller and change out the buttons all over again. So I wouldn't put that out of the realm of possibility. In fact, I would expect kind of the DualSense releases to start to accelerate as we go through the generation. Next up, let's talk about Nintendo and their Q&A with investors, because there were a lot of questions asked. This good bit of it was like PR talk, and then also explaining why their expectations are a bit lower for this fiscal year, which we already did go over. I mean, the translation didn't have to be that specific for us to realize, okay, last year there were a lot of people staying at home and buying different ways of entertaining themselves, which basically came back to video games, seeing a massive spike in overall sales. But there was one part that the translation was still a little iffy on, weren't 100% sure, and that had to do with next generation talk with the hardware and even rising game development costs. Well, this is the official translation that Nintendo themselves released on their website, and I'll link to the PDF down below if you want to go through some of the other questions and answers as well. So this was listed under question 4 and answer 4. In recent years, research and development, that'd be R&D, expenses have been on the rise. What's the context for that? You're anticipating R&D expenses of nearly 100 billion yen this fiscal year, but could you give a general idea of what kind of development that is for? This from Furukawa, saying our software development costs, which include outsourcing, are increasing as we work to maintain a continuous stream of new titles for Nintendo Switch as it enters the middle of its life cycle. Because per title development costs are higher now than they were on past platforms, we anticipate that R&D expenses will continue to rise as we work to maintain a sizable lineup of titles. We are also conducting a variety of studies, which include investigating ways to enhance our digital business and future services that will help maintain long-term relationships with our customers, as was touched on in the corporate management policy briefing last September. In addition, the development of the next generation of hardware needs to begin years before launch, so R&D expenses for that are gradually rising. We're aiming to grow by continuing our integrated hardware, software, entertainment business, and that means conducting all sorts of research and development in various areas, including both hardware and software. So there is quite a bit to take away from that statement. Obviously, they are going to be working on next generation hardware, and typically that would even start up as soon as they released the Switch, which they could have already been working on revisions and stuff around that time. Hey, what can we do in terms of pricing and overall hardware development, as they're talking with NVIDIA and then other parts manufacturers out there. And we hear about the rumors around OLED and all this, sure, but working towards the next generation Switch, if we are truly, as they say, halfway through the Switch's current life, yeah, they might want to start planning for a release of like, a big new platform that could potentially be 3 to 4 years off. I mean, that just makes a lot of sense. But the software side is interesting as they talk about how overall development costs are rising. And if you think about it, it makes sense considering for a while there, a good portion of Nintendo's business was developing games for the 3DS. And now, as we've talked about before, the development studios that maybe were doing 3DS games are now working on the Switch, which means they would be making the move to HD development overall. So yes, you probably will see development costs be on the rise. And even as Nintendo works to maybe understand some of these other game engines outside of Nintendo, like Unreal Engine, which has been talked about before, you are going to see R&D costs just around creating these games go up, which does bring me to a point that I made a little while ago, and it's something to consider because Sony has made the move to $70. I still feel like Nintendo is going to make that move to $70 when we go into the next generation of whatever console they have or hybrid system with the Switch or Switch 2 or whatever they decide to call it. I think that's something they will pursue. And then also they are talking about their software hardware integration, which tells me they are probably looking into the idea of migrating a lot of your purchases and software through the Nintendo account over to this new platform that they want to do. That way it's a little more seamless than what we've had in the past, whether it's from the Wii to the Wii U or the Wii U to the Switch. Basically, it has been great, so I'm hoping with this overall account system they have, it'll be a lot easier to just sign in, and then you can just start downloading from what's basically going to look like, I assume, the same kind of eShop. But overall, quite a few things to think about here when it comes to the rising costs in game development for Nintendo, and as they work through the second half of the generation for the Switch, what they come up with in terms of their games and the pipeline they have set up now. I think there's going to be a lot of big things to look forward to here from Nintendo. Next up, let's talk about Dragon Quest, as we have a big 35th anniversary stream to look forward to, and now expectations are starting to build around this because for the first time we will have an international version of the stream presented on YouTube, and we can actually head over here. This is the stream itself being shown along with the description. It's currently unlisted, but I will link it down below in the sources so you can set your reminder. Currently Eastern time, it's set for 11:30 p.m. May 26th. It says in the description, introducing the upcoming lineup in the Dragon Quest series. May 27th is Dragon Quest Day, and to celebrate the 35th anniversary of the series, we're bringing you a special broadcast to showcase all of the latest information about what's going on and what's yet to come in the world of Dragon Quest. For the first time in Dragon Quest history, the show will feature live interpretation from Japanese so that our international fans can stay up to date with developments in the Dragon Quest series too. Don't miss it or you'll miss out. And this is exciting stuff. I mean, Dragon Quest XI was a very good Dragon Quest game. And you know what? It sold pretty well overall. They made it on Unreal. And I think there were a lot of newer fans that came in to check it out and then maybe went back and tried out some of the older games. And that's one of the big things I could see being announced here, considering this is being viewed as, a big anniversary event, a big anniversary stream. We could see some older Dragon Quest games maybe make their way up to current platforms. Maybe they even pick one of the older Dragon Quest games and do like a remake or remaster that has a bit more focus on it. That'd be pretty cool. But I think the big announcement here, and the one I'm really crossing my fingers on, because Dragon Quest XI was, it was a while ago now, right? What was that, 2017? So I think it's time for Dragon Quest 12 to come out. Yeah, I think this is it. This feels like the time where they start to talk about it, and usually they'll talk about it way in advance, but it's been so long now, and I know they did development on the Switch, for example, but like this seems perfect with the 35th anniversary here to give us our first real look at Dragon Quest 12. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's coming out this year or anything. They could still be like 2 years off, but just to kind of get the ball rolling on the marketing for that would be great, and I am looking forward to see what they come up with there. So here's hoping they have some big announcements for this one. Make sure you check it out. It's going to be a little later on at night for me, so it won't necessarily make it into the following morning's news wave, but at the first chance I get, I'll definitely be talking about what they have here. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about that virtual E3, as we did get more information around how this is all going to work. We can head over here. This was posted up on e3expo.com, where they have a couple of bullet points here going over the features of what appears to be their E3 portal, which will be free. I know that was a whole thing at one point, was like, will there be a paywall? No, once again, no paywall, nothing like that. It looks like it's going to be more or less an app on your phone or part of the website that you go to. Beginning on June 12th, a public version of the online portal will give access to exhibitor booths, which they say features special events, video-on-demand content, and articles. Exhibitor booths will act as hubs within the portal for key announcements and game information tied to each exhibitor. So I assume you're going to go to the website or go to the app on your phone, and there'll be different sections for like SEGA, Square, Nintendo, Bandai Namco, Microsoft, and then from there you'll see different games pop up for the announcements, and you can watch the trailers. So kind of consolidate everything into one spot when it comes to information of the games that were announced. They're also going to have lounges, which is an interesting one. I assume these are going to be like chat rooms. They say online gathering spots for all E3 attendees. I'm sure that won't go off the rails at all. And they also have forums, which are special boards for focused online discussion and sharing among attendees. Leaderboards, also interesting. Gamified show elements that can be collected and displayed, encouraging fans to interact in as many ways as possible. And then profile creation. All attendees can create their own unique profiles within the portal and app, which can be customized. Okay, so they're going to have, I guess, their own gamer score or their own platinum trophy, basically, as you go through this, and you'll just kind of work to interact and collect these different things for your avatar that's, I guess, only around for this one event, or maybe it just carries over year over year. I mean, they're trying to give people incentive to go check out different booths or interact, I'm sure. But for the most part, I feel like a lot of people are going to go look at this app, and then they're going to get the info they want for the games announced or any of that. And they're going to go to places they've already been to discuss this stuff, whether it's online forums, Discords, YouTube comments section. I'm curious how many people are going to download the E3 app and then all of a sudden be super active on their forums or in their online lounge that, like I said, is probably going to require quite a bit of moderation if different Twitch chats or YouTube chats for live events are any indication. At least they're trying something here to make it more interactive. I just feel like they got to get to the point where they can have in-person events back so they can have this whole thing make sense again. But at least we have some way to kind of consolidate all of the announcements and everything together, and then we can, like I said, go to different forums and Discord and talk about it. I do want to say, though, a companion app like this would probably be really good for media or people attending to set up different meetings with developers and companies. If you can kind of do everything on an E3 app, and then they also have the app set up for attendees so they can maybe even get achievements walking around and visiting different booths, that would be really cool. Maybe that's kind of what they're working up to when they can do an in-person event again. They work on the app now and then get to a point where it's something that can carry over year after year for attendees and media. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, do you want the next Donkey Kong game from Nintendo to be 2D or 3D? And it looks like the vast majority of you want 3D at 73%, with 27% of you voting for 2D. And I feel like at this point, a lot of people would just like to see something new for the Donkey Kong series. I mean, 2D is great for DK. It's worked well, right? Since the original arcade, when you were Mario trying to climb up and get DK, or DK Jr., or moving up to the Nintendo and Super Nintendo. But DK64 was so interesting at the time, and I would love to see Nintendo, especially with what they've been able to do with things like Mario Odyssey and Mario Galaxy, go, hey, maybe we could do something really cool with DK and make like a 3D game around that franchise. Just something that would be pretty fun to experience, but I do get the feeling that they are kind of stuck on 2D or 2.5D, if you want to call it that. And we'll finish up with a comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Alex saying, I've always loved playing 3D Sonic games, but the quality has always been hit or miss. I really hope they can do the next one justice. And looking back at 3D Sonic, I think it's just become harder over the years as just gaming in general has evolved for 3D Sonic to kind of evolve alongside of it. I mean, if you're like back on the Dreamcast when Sonic Adventure first showed up, a lot of us remember that game because of how good it looked at the time. It was super impressive, but now everything looks really good for the most part in like the AAA game development space. So 3D Sonic just has not evolved that well. And that's one thing I would love to see Sega figured out. Everything just click and they put out a really, really good Sonic game. But at least we'll always have the game, is it better than Sonic Forces and Famitsu? A 35 out of 40, that's the mark, and we'll see if Sega can beat that with their next 3D Sonic game. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today, whereas Nintendo's comments on next generation hardware, as well as software hardware development costs rising for them and their R&D kind of showing that now in their reports? And then also, what about these new DualSense controllers? We have a red and now an all black controller. What's the next, I guess, color variant you would like to see from Sony? And then Dragon Quest, big time event coming up. What do you want to see announced there? Thanks guys for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time for Newswave.